on time. Jason, yeah, great. Tuesday. Wow. Yeah. New talit number 2. Same designer, same guy in the south of Israel. Yeah, I ordered some pictures and take chance. No, yeah, I didn't get the color on this one. Yeah, I mean, I tried to match the whole outfit around the talit today, of course. And last night, it's all like... All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. We're going to go ahead and get started. You'll walk into the synagogue after several months, and you think, how goodly are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. Page 68. Shesani ben Chori. Amen. Rokatana Machalam, Pokech Yivri. Amen. Rokatana Machalam, Abish Arni. Amen. Rokatana Machalam, Atir Suri. Amen. Rokatana Machalam, Zokef Kufufim. Amen. Rokatana Machalam, Rokar Salamayim. Amen. Rokatana Machalam, Shesali Kotsarki. Amen. Rokatana Machalam, Mchim Tzadi Gaver. Amen. Rokatana Machalam, Azesha Bigura. Amen. Rokatana Machalam, Atir Betifara. Amen. You may be seated, page 134. Hallelujah, 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 Bekosho, hallelujah, hallelujah, Bekiahuzo, hallelujah, 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 Bikurota, hallelujah, hallelujah, Kerogulo, hallelujah, 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 take a shofar. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Devel Befinor. Hallelujah, 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 Betokul Machol. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Binin Berukav. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. ונשפך חנפך וברכת שם קודשך כאמור לדוד ברכי נפשי את אדוני וכל קרבה את שם קודשו היה בתמצות עוזך הגדול בגבול שמך הגיבור לנצח לנו ובנורתך המלך ישב על כיסא רם ונישא 149 שוכן על ארון וקדוש צדיקים באדוני זרים בתהילה בפי ישרים תתעלה ובדברי צדיקים תתברך ובלשון חסידים תתרומם ובקרב פרושים תתקדש ומקלות ודבות עמך בית ישראל שכן חב"ד כל דברים לפניך מעלינו ולאוהב אבותינו להודות נעלה לשבח, לבאר לרומם להדר, לברך נעלה כל עשו, כל דברי שירות ותשבחות, דוד בן ישי עבדך, ושיחך, ישתבח שמך ליד מלכנו. היה למלך הגדול בראש בשמיים ובארץ, כי לפנינו נעלינו אלוהי אבותינו. שיר ושבחה, לב וזמרה, עוז וממשלה, נצח גדול ותודה, תהילה ותפארת, קדושה ומלכות, ורחבות ועולמות, מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, המלך גדול ותשבחות, אל ההודעות התורה הנפלאות, ובחר בשירי זמרה, ולרחבי העולמים. יגדל ויקרש ברבה. ימדי ברכיותי והמלך מלכותי וחייכון וביומכון ולכל בית ישראל בגלל בזמן קריב ימרו. אמן. ונשמרה ונורא ולעולם יתברך וישתבח ויתברך אמרם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשו ולא מקומך ושיבתה ושבחת ונחמתה תמירן ביומה ימרו. אמן. Rise from page 152. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai Borach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Tzor V'Choshech Oseh Shalom U'Borei et HaKol. אין כערכך ואין זולתך, אפס בלתך ומי דומה לך. אין כערכך ואין זולתך, אפס בלתך ומי דומה לך. אין כערכך ואין ואין זולתך וכרחי העולם, אפס בלתך וללמוד המשיח, אין דומה לך ושילתי יד המתים. אל אדון על כל המעשים, ברוך ובורך בפי כל נשמה, גדול וטובו מלא עולם דעת ותבונה סובב ליבותו. הנגאל על חיות הקודש ונער וחבו המרכז זכות ומישור לפני חיסו חסד חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו, טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו יצרם בדעת ובינה ופסקי כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל מלאים זיו ופליטים נוגה נעזיבם לכל העולם שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם עושים בהם הרצון קונם פאר וכבוד נותנים נשמות צולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרח אור רעה והקים זולמה שבט נותנים לו כל צבא מרום תפארת וגדולה seraphim ואופנים וחיות הרוחת. ששבת בכל כנסי ובשביעי. שעשית ברוך הסלע, תברך, צורנו מלכנו וגואלנו בורא קדושים, ישתבח שמך ליד מלכנו. We're on page 159. וכולם נותחים את פיהם בקדושת תורה, בשירה ובזמרה, מפרחים ומשבחים, מפרים ומעריצים ומקדישים וממליכים. וכולם מקבלים עליהם במלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה, להקדיש עצמם בנחת רוח, בשפה עברה ונעימה, קדושה כולם כאחד, בונים ואומרים ביראה. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, ולכל הארץ יהודו. ויפנים חיי הקודש ברש שלום מנסים, רבים למקום משבחים ואומרים ברוך אדוני יתננו. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו, מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר מאורו, רבה אותנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חמלה גדולה ותרה, חמלת עלינו, אבינו מלכנו, בעבור אבותינו, שבטו בך, אבינו מלכנו, ותלמדנו בחיים, כן תפננו בנתנו, אבינו אהב ורחמן, המרחם רחם עלינו, ותן בליבנו להבין ולהשכיל לשמוע, ללמוד ללמד, לשמור ולעשות, ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה, ואהבנו בתורתך, ותאבק בנו מצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול נגילה ונשמחה, בישועתך. Chevron Israel, Be'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Be'ahava, Ein Adonai Elohecha, B'chol alecha, U'b'chol nafshecha, U'b'chol me'odecha, Ve'ayu ha'dvarim ha'elah, Asher Anochi Mitzvavecha, Ayom Alecha, V'shinantam Alecha, V'yimartem, V'shivtecha V'beitecha, U'lechtecha V'derech, U'shovecha U'tkumecha, U'shartam Le'od B'yadecha, Ve'yaledotecha V'einecha, U'tavtam Continue on our own, 167 through 169. תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, ותזכרו שמעיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. ודורם ושמו קיים, וחסר נכון ומלכותו, ואמרתו ליד קיימת, ודבריו חיים וקיימים. ושאתה אמור אלינו לאבותינו מלכינו מלך אבותינו, גואלנו גואל אבותינו, יורשנו לישועתנו, הודינו מצאנו מעולם שמך, אין אלוהים זולתך. זכרת אבותינו אתה ובעולם. אמן, 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 אתה הוא ראשון. אמן, 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 אתה הוא אחרון. ומבלעדיך אין מלך ומשיח, ומבלעדיך אין לנו מלך, מלך רב ומשיח. אמן, 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 אתה הוא ראשון. אמן, 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 אתה הוא אחרון. יותר למרות ומבורך, משיח לישראל חדשה בשמחה רבה, אמרו כולם, מי כמוך, באלים אדוני, מי כמוך, נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, שירה חדשה, שיר וגדולים, לשמך אספת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ובדרך קדומך, יהודה וישראל, גואלנו אדוני קדוש שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. Private Amidah, pages 175 to 192. going to continue with the repetition of the Amidah on page 175. Adonai sefratayitahu v'yagitehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaHaNorah El Elyon Gomer Chassadim Tovim Bekonei Yaakov V'zocher Chasdei Avot U'mevii Goel Libnei Bneihem Leman Shemo Yahweh Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ufokei Tzara Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai V'chayei Meitim Atah Rab Le'Hoshia Omorit Atah Mefaker Chaim B'Chesed V'chayei Meitim B'Rachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rofech Olim U'Matir Asurim U'Mekayem Emunato L'Shenei Afar Michamocha Al Bivuro U'Mido Melach Melech Memit U'Mechayem U'Matzliach Yeshua Baruch atah Adonai Mechayei HaMeitim. Please rise for the Kedusha. Nekadesh et Shimcha ba'olam Keshem shemakdishim oto b'shnei marom Kakatuv al yad neviecha V'kara ze el ze ve'amar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzvaot Melech ha'aretz kevodo Az b'kol ra'ash gadol Adir v'chazak mashmi'im kol Minasim le'yumat zerafim Le'yumatam baruch yomeru Baruch kevod Adonai Limkom chamalkeinu Tofia b'tivach aleinu Ki mechakim manachnu lach Matai timlok b'tzion Mekarov b'yaminu le'olam va'et tishkon Tikadal v'tikadash V'tot Yerushalayim bircha L'dor v'ador U'lanetzach netzachim Ve'eineinu tirena Malchutecha Baruch Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. You may be seated on page 181. Yismach, 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 Moshe benat Chelko, Yeved Ne'eman, Ne'eman, Aikarata lo, Yismach, 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 Moshe benat Chelko, Yeved Ne'eman, Ne'eman, Aikarata lo. Tifer Rosh Hashanah הר סיני. ושני לוחות אבנים הורים בידו, וכתוב בהם שמירת שבת, וכן כתוב בתורתך. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ולעולם. והניבם בני ישראל את דיני עולם, כי ששכו מסר את שמיים את הארץ, ביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ולא נתתו אדוני אלוהינו לגוי ארצות, ולא חנכתו מלכינו לעבדי פסילים, וגם מנחתו לא ישכנו ערלים, כי ישראל עמך נתתו באהבה לזרע יעקב, אשר בם בחרת. מקדשי שלי שבת, כולם יסלו, ויתענגו מטובך השבת, והשביעי רציתי במקדש לו שבת, כן די ימים כותו, קראת זר למעשה בראשית. אלוהינו אלוהי אבותינו רצנו חטאנו, קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך, ושבנו בטובך, ושמחנו לישועתך, ותאר ליבנו לעבדך באמת, והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו, באהבה ורצון שבת קודשך, וינוחו בישראל, וקדשי שמך. ברוך אדוני מקדש השבת. רצה אדוני אלוהינו גם חי ישראל, ובתפילתם והשבת עבודה לדביר ביתך בישי ישראל. ותפילתם באהבה תקבל ברצון, די ברצון תמיד, עבודת ישראל עמך, ותחזינה עינינו, ושובך לציון ברחמים. ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו, המחזיר שכינתו לציון ונמנע מגלותם. תתחיל לכל רחמך וברחם קהילתם וחסדיך ולהנחיל לך. יעקב המקרא ותנועם שמך מגן תמיד נעלם בעת, ובדיוק לסלע ולו את שמך באמת, אל ישועתנו וישועתנו סלע, ברוך אתה אדוני, ועתו שלך לכנה אל להודות. אלוהינו ולאבותינו, ברכנו בברכה המשולשת, בתורה הכתובה על ידי משה עבדך, האמורה מבירור לבנה, האמורה מבירור לבנה, האמורה מבירור לבנה, בונים על קדושך כאמור. ברך אדוני וישמרך, ירנק נפלך ויחונך, צלק נפלך ויסלך שלום. שים שלום בעולם טובה וברכה, שים שלום טובה וברכה. כן וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך, ברכנו עמינו כולנו כאחד באור פניך. שים שלום בעולם טובה וברכה, שים שלום טובה וברכה. כי פניך נתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, תורת חיים ואהבת חסד צדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום. שים שלום בעולם Sing Shalom Tova Israel. Shalom. 193. Kadisha. Karavi Krashme Baba. Israel. Bagalav Isman Karivim Meru. Eishe Rabba Mevorah. Eolam Menom Alayani. Barach Yishtabach. Bagram Bina Sevid. David Alevi Talash Mene Kudisha. Loving Korchata Mashiach. Lechamat Tamiram Bimavim Meru. Yibotzot Dorotot. Ramabon Dishmai Bimmeru. Nishon Rabbi Shemai. Chemel Israel Bimmeru. Osei Shalom Bimromav. Yamasei Shalom. Aleinu Ve'al Israel. Kol Yishrei Tevel Bimmeru. I meant to warn you before we did the repetition of the Amidah, I'm going to be adding the line Umarit Hatal, the do. Everybody does it now, pretty much everywhere. Not everybody, but most congregations now do that. I put it in there as an option when we made the book. It's a Sephardic custom that Ashkenazim have adopted for the most part throughout the world. Certainly every congregation in Israel does it, but they also do it outside of Israel. One thing they do in Israel that they don't do outside, which is a halachic thing, is the priestly blessing, the Birkat Kohanim. We do it, well, we only do it on Yom Kippur. Many congregations do it every Chag, every holiday, but in Israel they do it actually every single day. Shabbat, weekday minyan.
Do they bring them up and they hold it, the
yeah, they do the whole full duchen and the whole, everything. So
the Levite washing too?
they do the Levite washing too.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Remove the shoes, the whole thing, every single day. Every single day. I used to think I would have thought that the temple has to be standing for that. The Beit HaMikdash, the ancient temple in Israel, but no, if you're in the land, the priests, the Kohanim, bless. And there's one, you can actually find this on YouTube. There's a massive Birkat Kohanim on the Western Wall right before Pesach. They do like just a gigantic. Except that, what was that? Oh, it's called Late Pesach. All right. Except, you should look at it on YouTube, but you're also not supposed to watch the Kohanim do the blessings. I'm not sure what you actually do, but anyway. Pretty cool stuff.
Half the population are Kohanim.
Absolutely. So we're going to be in the Torah service now, and I think I saw Sarah Korn, and might as well have Sarah leading us in the Torah service, because that's fun. And let's have Andrew and Asher Mecklin come up to open the ark, if you don't mind. And let's have May Battles, why don't you carry the Torah today? Page 195.
Son
All right, we may be seated. All right, what page are we on? I can tell you that we are on, where? 1037. So Deuteronomy chapter 7, verses 12 through 16. Parsha Aked, which means heal. But it's causative. Here's what the cause, if the cause is, you do good things are going to happen. You do bad things are going to happen. It's a fairly simple message, this first one, and one that as human beings doesn't always work. We know that to be true. But try to take it communally, right? If we observe these traditions and follow these laws, the Jewish people will survive and thrive. If we don't, we won't. So it actually can work. If you take it communally, it can work literally. Most of the Torah reading will be done by the Langfelds today, I believe.
Yeah.
So anyway, First Oleana, once again, chapter 7, verses 12 through 16. And we're going to call upon our Bat Cohen Fifi Goodfellow for the first Oleana.
V'yazorvegin v'shilach kol hakosim b'avan amar. Amen. Hakol havu godel elhenu chavod laTorah b'kohen kirvi ta'amod leah b'fredo v'shaul hakohen baruch shenatan Torah li'am Yisrael b'kedushato v'atem advikim b'ro'echem chayim kulchem hayom. Baruch Adonai Borach Le'olam Va'ed. Amen.
Amen. V'haya ekev tishme'un et hamishpatim ha'eleh u'shmartem v'asitem otam v'shamar Adonai Elohecha l'cha et ha'brit v'et ha'chesed asher nishba la'avotecha v'ahedecha u'v'irachacha v'hirbecha u'v'irach v'rivinecha u'v'riamatecha deganecha v'tiroshecha v'yitzarecha shekar alafecha v'yastrot zonecha al adama asher nishba la'avotecha lateh lach Baruch tihyeh mikol ha'amim lo yeh v'cha akar v'akara u'v'hemtecha v'hesir Adonai libecha kol holi v'chol manvei mitzrayim hara'im asher yadata lo yesimam v'ach u'netanam v'chol sonecha v'achalta kol ha'amim asher Adonai lehecha notein lach Lo tachos einecha alehem, v'lo ta'avot et Eloheihem, ki mokeshu lach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natanani Torah tibeth v'chayei olam atah b'toreinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yashikor. Second Aliyah, verses 17 through 21. You can overtake enemies, and God will help that process. Verses 17 through 21, we call upon Levi and married to Levi. Give him glory.
V'yamdu Miriam bat Abraham v'Cyril v'David ben Leah v'Mordechai halevi. Baruch Adonai Borach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Borach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'char banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki tomar bilvadecha rabim hagoyim ha'eleh mimeni echa ucha lehorishan lo tira mehem zachor tizkor et asher asa Adonai Elohecha lefaro v'chol Mitzrayim hamasot adolot asher aru einecha v'ha'otzot v'hamoftim v'hayad ha'chazacha v'hazroa hantuya asher hotziyacha Adonai Elohecha ken ya'aseh Adonai Elohecha l'chol ha'amim asher ata yarei mipneihem v'gam et hatzira yeshalach Adonai Elohecha bam adavot hanisharim v'hanistarim mipanecha lo ta'arot stivehem ki Adonai Elohecha b'kirbecha el gadol v'dorah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah temet, v'chayei olam lecha b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Shabbat. Third Aliyah, verses 22 through 26. Essentially the burning of the idols as the land gets dispossessed and For the third holiday, I would call upon Dean Wolfine commemorating the earth site of his dad.
Yamad Zimritin ben Daniel Bedana Shalishi.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'nasha Adonai Elohecha et Hagoyim ha'el mipanecha me'ad me'ad lo tukal kalatam aher Intervet alacha chayat hasadeh v'tana Adonai Elohecha lefanecha v'hamam mehuma gedolah ad hishamtam v'natan machihem biyadecha v'ha'abata et shamam mitachat hashamayim lo yityatzeh ish b'panecha ad hishmiraka otam Tisilei Eloheihem tisrafun ba'esh lo takmod kesef v'zahav aleihem v'lakatala Pain tibakesh bo ki to abad Adonai Elohecha hu v'lo tabi to eba el beitecha v'hayita cherem kamahu shakech tishatseinu v'ta'at tita'atenu ki cherem
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
The fourth Aliyah, chapter 8, verses 1 through 3. Remembering the journey. And call upon myself and my wife Karen. It's traditional when you get back from a long journey, particularly a journey to Israel, to have an Aliyah and say the Gomel prayer.
Yamdu Harav Mordechai ben Hershel v'Chava v'Tova bad Hassel v'Chaim HaKohen Revi'i.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach.
Baruch Adonai Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Kol hamitzvah asher anochi metzavecha hayom tishmeru la'asot leman tichyun uvitem uvatem dirishtem et ha'aretz asher nitva Adonai la'avotechem v'zakarta et kol haderech asher holifecha Adonai Elohecha ze 40 shana. זה 40 שנה. זה 40 שנה. במדבר למען ענותך לנסותך לדעת את אשר לבבך התשמור מצוותיו אם לא עיינך בריתך ויאכילך את המן אשר לא ידעת ולא ידעו אבותיך למען הודיעך כי לא עבר לחם לבדו יחיה האדם כי על כל מוצלחי אדוני יחיה האדם.
Halam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Temet V'chayei Olam Nata B'Tokeinu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Hagomel L'chayavim Tovot Shekmalani Kol Tov. Amen. Yes, we are safe back from the journey. Also, in that last line that Mark read was the very famous line about humans not living by bread alone, which is taken colloquially to mean there's more to life than just the basics of the food, but that's actually not what it says, and that's not what it's about in the Torah. It's about that God led us through the wilderness, and God will provide, basically. It's really all about the relationship with God and God's power and compassion rather than about a spiritual life versus material life. All right, for the fifth aliyah, well, first of all, it's about when you get to the land, you say thank you. When you get to the land, you eat, you're satisfied, you say thank you, which eventually becomes Birkat Hamazon. And let's call for the next aliyah. How about tomorrow?
Tamar bat Rinat Raphael Chamishi.
Verses 4 through 10.
Asher bachar banu mikol amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Simlat lecha lo v'altan elecha v'raglecha lo v'atzecha ve'arbaim shana v'yadata im levavecha ki kasher yasir ish et beno Adonai Elohecha me'yosrecha v'shamat et mitzvot Adonai Elohecha la'lechet b'dvarav u'liva'oto ki Adonai Elohecha mevi'acha El Eretz Torah, Eretz Nachale Mayim, Ayonot u'temot yotzim, Bibakar uvahar, Eretz Chita u'sovah v'gefen, U'tena v'limon, Eretz Zeit shemen u'dvash, Eretz asher lo, V'miskinut ha'tocha ba'lechem, Lo tesar kol ba'eretz asher avanecha barzel u'mechava tehsov nefoshet v'afalta v'savata u've'achta et Adonai Elohecha al ha'aretz ha'tova asher natan lach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Sixth aliyah, chapter 8, verses 11 through 18. Beware lest you forget what got you here, meaning God. This sixth aliyah, we have a guest, Hebrew-only speaker, who will be, he's commemorating the Yorkshire, so he is here for Shishi. He's gonna, I don't know his Hebrew name, he's gonna tell it to you. So.
Yeah, tell me your Hebrew name. And
Jamot Amr ben Azar.
Shishi.
Baruch atah mevorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam
من الخالق أشير بحر بعنين كل عمين من ضرور تورته وبركة أدوني نتنا تورة.
Amen. Hishamer lecha and tishkach et Adonai Elohecha levil tishamor mitzvotav u'mishpatav v'chukatav asher anochi mitzavcha hayom pentelcha v'savata uvatim tovim tivneh v'yashavta uvkarcha v'tzoncha yirbiyun v'kesef v'zahav yirbelach v'chol asher lecha yirbeh v'ram v'lavecha v'shachachta et Adonai Elohecha Hamotziacha me'eretz Mitzrayim מבית עבדים המוליכך במדבר הגדול והנורא נחש שרף יקרב וצמאון אשר אין מים המוציא לך מים מצור חלמיש המאכילך מן במדבר אשר לא ידעון אבותיך למען ענותך ולמען נעשותיך להיטיבך ואחריתך ואמרת בלבבך כוחי ועוצם ידי עשה לי את החיל הזה וזכרת את אדוני אלוהיך כי הוא הנותן לך כוח לעשות חיל למען הקים את בריתו אשר נשבע לאבותיך כיום הזה.
ברוך אתה אדוני מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם אתה תתנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
I actually didn't recognize him. It's Abner Nelson, who we know is part of the Nelson family, but he speaks English, but he was speaking to me in Hebrew to give me some practice after my time in Israel. All right, for the 7th Aliyah, chapter 8, verses 19 through 9:3, the word Shema is poignantly mentioned. You're about to go into the land. Listen, you're about to go into the land, and you have to be responsible, and God will also be responsible. We're going to call upon Jennifer Ellis to have the 7th Aliyah, mother of two beautiful, fairly newborns, Solomon and Levi are back there, and it was, to be honest, very difficult aftermath, and so she's also going to say the Gomel prayer after her liaison. So it's another chance to Jennifer.
Tamad Zirachel Bat Shlomo Egel Gitel Shvi'i.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamborah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amin v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch et Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Im shachach tishkach et Adonai Elohecha v'halakah. Agree, Elohim, Elohim, Gavatam, Yisrael, Tabachem. Va'im, ha'idroti, va'hem hayahom, Diabetam, Zovedem, Gavaim, Asher Adonai, Ma'avod Miknah, Ma'aviv
Shekmalani Kolto.
Amen. Please rise for Chatzah.
Yikada, Yikada, Shemei Rabba, Adira, Chute, Yamlich,
You may be seated. We turn to the end of the parsha, the Maftir, and it is on 1053. More about if you faithfully keep those commandments, good things will happen. If you don't,
Amo, Gamliel ben Meir HaKohen, Hamaftir.
I want to thank Audrey Kaufman in advance for reading. For some reason, her name was left out of the program, so. But you can see her right there. Read it. How do we know?
Baruch Adonai Hamborach. Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan manu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Ki im shamur tishmeru et kol hamitzvah hazot asher anochi mitzavechem la'asotah le'ahava et Adonai Elohechem alechet b'chol rachav u'dakav lo. V'horish Adonai et for Elohim, Ha'elem, Midifnehem, Birishem, Vayim, Gedolim, Gatzamim, Mikem, Olamachon, Asher Tiro, Achaglechem, Rolachem, Midier, Mimhamidbar, Havanon, Mihanahar, Mihar Perot, V'Rad Hayam HaCharon, Yeh Gevulechem, Lo Yigatze Bish Bifnechem, Achlechem Yorahem, Adonai Elohechem, sorry. Achlechem Yorahem, Yitei Adonai Elohechem, Apnei Haaretz Asher Tinucheva, Asher Tiber Lachem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam atah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Thank you, Garrett. Conclusive blessing for all who read. Yishbrech Avnei Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarah Brach Amalea. Yivrech Kol Peri Asher Anu Vayom. Yichron Kol Mitzvot Torah Lichron Shabbat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yivrech Otam Yitmishpachotam Vayishlach Chavatzcha B'chol Meseidem Kol Shelechem V'nomar Amen. For all who are ill, we're thinking especially today of Scott Lawrence, Dalia Bat Rezel, Barbara Rose, Ilya Oak, Lehudit Bat Shena, Shabtai Dop Ben Shimon Moshe, Rosie Gurman, Michiel Ben Elisa, Shulamit Bat Leah, Elisa Bat Rav Raphael Ben Esther, Moshe Ben Ruvain, Patricia de la Puente Rose, Rachel Shulamit Bat Yehudit, Rachel Bet Esther Fruma, Rivka Bat Shmuel Napola, Yoni Yosef Ben Shmuel, Yonah Ben Tova, Ariel Chaim, Esther Malka Bat Salah Moshe, Ziva Chasson, Sarah Bat Malka, Shlomo Ben Gittel Ben Moshe, Warren Church Ben Pat, Marge Glustein, Shachar Bat Sarah, Holly White, Brian Wade, Geraldine Louise Hoffman, and Lisa Egger. If you have any other names of those who are ill, please say them out loud at this time.
Glory to God.
Yishaberach Avoteinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, v'Yivarech, v'Yirapeh, et ha'cholim. Elna Refana, Elna Refana, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Yivarech, v'Yirapeh, et ha'cholim. May God bless you all those who are ill. May we continue to be with them in their time of need. We rise now for the Hagba and Galila. We're going to try a couple of New Jersey newcomers. They're only new to me. They've come during the time that I was gone, so called Jeff and Liz. And they're not part of the same household. It's just they both happen to be from New Jersey and sort of arriving here at the same time.
Yamod, Hamabir Tamod, Hagolele.
Where'd you go?
Torah, Asher Moshe, Lifnei Bnei Yisrael, Adonai, Yad Moshe. Eitz Chaim Yilo Machazikim Ba'avetoche HaMerushar. Eitz Chaim Yilo Machazikim Ba'avetoche HaMerushar. Terach Shalom, Shalom,
1056. Quick story about Haftorah in general before I describe this one. A few weeks ago, I was at a service in Tel Aviv, a random Shabbat morning service at a sort of a communal synagogue. They auctioned off the, for pay, the aliyot, which is mostly Sephardic custom. It's kind of a mixed synagogue. But anyway, they auctioned off these aliyot, but apparently they hadn't given away the Haftorah, the maftir. And then they came to me and asked if I would do the maftir. So you're not really supposed to refuse an honor, but I thought, am I going to have to pay for it? How am I going to do it? I'm looking at a book that's like, I can't read the print. It's so small. Do they have a big book? Anyway, I hesitated too long, thankfully, and he asked the guy next to me instead. So, anyway.
Wait, did he have to pay?
He did not have to pay.
Did he give him a bigger book?
Are you sure?
And it turned out, yes, the book was slightly bigger. So I should have said yes, but I was too afraid. And actually, it still bothers me that I said no. Right? But nevertheless, that's the way it goes. So this Haftorah comes from Isaiah. It's the second Haftorah of comfort following Tisha B'Av. The Jewish people are in exile. Isaiah basically says, God will come back to us. Like a woman can't forget her baby, and God will not forget us. That's the metaphor. It only earns 3 stars, though, because it's too darn long. I mean, that one line would have probably been enough. But anyway, Garrett's got a handle. And the print is big.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratza v'divrehem hane'amarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'eh ha'emet v'tzedek. V'tomer Tzion azavani Adonai v'Adonai shechechani hatishkach isha ula merachem b'mina gam eile tishkachna v'anochi lo eshkachech hein al kapayim hakotich chomotayich negdi tamid miharu banayich v'harsayich u'macharibayich mimech yetzeu Sisaviv einayich uri kulam nikatsu v'ulach chayani ne'um Adonai ki chulam ka'adi tiopashi u'kashrim kakala ki chorvotayich v'shom amotayich ve'eretz arisutech ki ata tetzri miyoshev v'rachaku mevalayich Ot yomru ve'osnayich b'nei shiulayich tzarli hamakom k'shali ve'eshera ve'amart bilvadech mi yalad li et eile va'ani shechula b'lamuda kola v'sura ve'eile mi gidel hein ani nisharti levadi eile eifo hein Ko amar Adonai Elohim Hine esa Elohim yadi Elamim arim nisi Eviu vanayich bechotze Ugnotayich akateftin al sena Behayim lachim Onayich Asartehem Menikotayich Apayim Eretz ishtachavu lav Ba'afar ragulayich ilachechu Ya'adat ki ani Adonai Asher lo yeloshu tovai Hayukach migibor Malkoach V'im shavit tzadi Yimalet Hicho Amar Adonai Gam shavi V'por yukach Umalkoach Aritz Yimalet Ve'ribech Anochi Arit Et banayich anochi Yoshia, v'ha'achoti Adonayich epesaram, v'che'asis damam mishkarum, v'yatu chol basar, ki ani Adonai Moshiach, v'go alech avir Yaakov, Ko Amar Adonai Zen Sefer 3:2 Dimchem Asher Shilachtia O Mi Minoshai Asher Macharti Etchem Lo Hey Ba'avnotechem Nimkartem Ufishechem Sholcha Imchem Madua Ba'ati Be'ein Ish Karati Be'ein Oneh Hakatzur Katra Yadini Ptut Ve'imei Bi Koach Lahatzil Hemigarati Achari Yam Asim Neharot Midbar Tiva Shigatan Me'ein Mayim Ve'tamot Batzama Albish Shamayim Karut Ve'sakasim Kesutam Adonai Elohim Natan Li Lashon Limudim Ladat Laut Et Ya'ed Davar Ya'ir Baboker Ya'ir Li Ozen Lishmoa Kalimudim Adonai Elohim Patach Li Ozen Va'anochi Lo Mariti Achor Lo Nesugoti Evi Natati Lamakim Ochayai Martin Hanai Lo Istarti Miklimot Varok Vadonai Elohim Yazor Li Alkein Lo Nichlamti Alkein Samti Fanai Kacholamish Va'eda Ki Lo Evosh Karov Matziki Miyariv Iti Na'am Dayachad Yiva'al Mishpati Yigash Elai Hein Adonai Elohim Yazor Li Mihu Yarshieni Hein Kulam Kabegedi Glu Ash Yochlein Mi Vachem Yirei Adonai Shomea Bekol Abdo Asher Halach HaShechim Ve'ein No Galo Yiftach B'Shem Adonai B'Shaim Belohav Hein Kulchen Kotchen Eish Mauzerei Zikot Lechu Be'ur Eshchem Uzikot Biartem Yati Haitazot Lachem L'matzeva Tishkavun Shimu Elai Rotve Sedek Vakshe Adonai Hapitu El Tzor Chutzatem El Makeret Bor Nukaratem Hapitu El Abraham Avichem El Sarah Tcholochem Yechad Kerativ Va'avarchehu Ve'arbehu Ki Nicham Adonai Sion Nicham Kocharboteha Vayasem Barak Eden Ba'arvatach Han Adonai Sason B'Simcha Yimatzeba Toda V'Kol Simcha Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Tzor Kol Ha'olamim Tzadik B'Chol Dorot Hayo Ne'eman Ha'omer V'Yoseh Ha'medaber U'Kayim Shekol Devarav Emet V'Tzedek Ne'eman Atahu Adonai Eloheinu V'ne'emanim Devarecha V'devarecha Divarecha Achor L'Yashuv Reikam Ki HaMelech Ne'eman V'Rachaman Atah Baruch Atah Adonai Hayo Ne'eman B'Chol Devarav Rachem Al Tzion Ki Beit Chayenu V'la'uvat Nefesh Toshia B'mehera B'yameinu Baruch Atah Adonai V'sameach Tzion B'vaneha Samcheinu Adonai Eloheinu Eliyahu Hanavi Avdecha U'malchut Beit David Mashichecha B'mehera Yavo V'yagel Libeinu Al Kiso Lo Yeshev Zar V'lo Yimchalu Odechenim Et Kevodo Ki V'shem Kol Shecha Nishpat Alo Shelo Yichben Nero Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Magen David Al HaTorah Ve'al HaAvodah Ve'al HaNi'im Ve'al Yom HaShabbat Hazeh Shenatata Lanu Adonai Eloheinu L'Kedusha V'Limucha Lechavod U'Tifaret Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך לפי חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Turn to page 224, the prayer for the state of Israel, Hebrew and English. 224. Vinu Shabbat Shemayim, so Israel Olam, Areh et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichatu Latenu, Hagen Alea Be'evrat Chastecha, Ufros Alea Sukar Shlomecha, Ushvat Borcha Yamincha Rashea, Sareh Be'otzea, V'tagnei Be'etzat Tova Milfanecha, חזק ידי מפני ארץ קודשנו, הענקדם אלוהינו ישועה, ועטרם ניצחון תעטרם, ונתת שלום בארץ, ושמחת עולם יושביה, ונאמר אמן. Our Abba that is in heaven, rock of Israel and its Redeemer, bless the state of Israel, the first flowering of our redemption, shield her with the wings of your loving kindness, spread over her the shelter of your peace. Send your light and your truth to her heads of state, her ministers and her advisors, restore them with good counsel before you. Strengthen the hands of those who defend your holy land. Bequeath to them our God's salvation. Adorn them with the crown of triumph, and grant peace in the land, and eternal joy to its inhabitants. And let us say, Amen. Ashrei, page 231, we invite 7th and 6th graders to come up and lead us.
Ashrei Yoshvei Veitacha, Odi Halucha Selah.
Ashrei Am Sheshkacha Lo, Ashrei Am Shadonai Eloham.
Tehillah Ledavi, Aramim Ka'al HaMelech, Ve'arah Hashicha Le'olam Va'ed.
V'chol Yom HaBarchecha, V'hashicha Le'olam Va'ed.
Gadol Arnaim Ho'eo, V'lik Yoto Ein Heker.
Dorle Berishat Masecha, Urotecha Yagiyu.
Adar Govotecha, V'divrei Mevotecha Asicha.
Ve'zizrotecha Yomeru, U'latecha Satarena.
Zecher Rabtucha Yagiyu, V'tikkatecha Yiranenu.
Chaim Yerachim Adonai, Erecha Hayim V'lachased.
Tov Adonai Lachol, Rachamav B'kol Masav.
Yeducha Merecha Masecha, V'chasidecha Yerucha.
Kevod Malchutecha Yomeru, U'kratecha Yedaberu.
V'yavir Le'am V'rotecha, V'odador Malchuto.
Malchutecha Malchut Kol Olamim, U'memshotecha B'chol Dor V'Dor.
Samecha Merecha L'Anufi, V'echa L'Anufi.
Enechol Elecha Yisaveru, V'na'anotem Lachem B'tovam Beito.
Odeach et Yadecha, Masiach Chol Chai Ratzon.
Tzadik Adonai B'kol Rachav, Chasid B'chol Masav.
Kavod Eloheinu B'chol V'rav, V'chol Asher Yivrahu Me'emet.
Son Yirav Yaseh, Ve'esh Shabbatam Yishma Yoshiem.
Shomer Adonai Kol Hava, V'chol Shachim Yashmi.
Tehillah Adonai Yedavarni, Ve'varech B'Bazar Shemet Shalel Va'ed.
V'anachnu nevarech Ya, Me'atav Yad Olam. Hallelujah.
Hey Ben, how nice was it to have company?
We rise for the return of the Sacred Torah to the Ark, same Ark openers and Torah carrier. Come on up. Yahalu et Shem Adonai, Ki Nisgav Shemo Levato.
Odo Eretz V'Shamayim V'Yarem Keren Le'amo Tira Lechol Chasiva L'Ifnei Yisrael Amirolam. Alleluia, Alleluia. Adonai b'neim, Adonai kavod, Adonai kavod shemo, Yishtachavu Adonai v'Adonesh.
Kol Adonai el halayim, el hakavod yirim, Adonai hamayim rabim.
Kol Adonai ba'arava, Kol Adonai be'adar, Kol Adonai shomer ha'azim, V'shamer Adonai et arzei halvanon.
Vayarkidem kemo egel, Lebanon v'Sirion, kemo ben remim.
Kol Adonai chotef la'chotesh, Kol Adonai yakim midbar, Yakim Adonai midbar ha'kodesh, Kol Adonai yechol elai avod.
Vayechesok yarod, U'chechalot, Kikulo omer kavod.
Adonai ha'aleluya, Shamayim Shev Adonai melech le'olam, Adonai oz le'olam u'yitnein, Adonai yivarech etam olam shalom.
Ki lekato gatati lachem torati al ta'azohu.
Eisraeli le'achazikima, le'tomkeha me'ushar, terachea, yakeinoam, bechol netivoteha, shalom, Hashiveinu Adonai, elech amenashuva, Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu, Kekedem. Amen.
You may be seated. I've already given you a hint, but what is the one prayer commanded in the Torah itself? Anybody know what's the one prayer commanded? It is indeed Birkat Hamazon, because, I mean, there's lots of stuff required in the Torah. There's a lot of prayers in the Torah, like the Shema, which technically isn't a prayer, it's a quote. But it's the only prayer is when you come into this good land and you eat and you're satisfied, you're supposed to bless God. And that's Birkat, that's not Hamotzi or Shehakol or any other prayers you do before. It happens after you eat. And that became the, 10-minute long with, all kinds of crazy hand motions and odd thing prayer that we know as Birkat Hamazon. So I had the opportunity to go into the good land over the last several months, and I ate. And I was very satisfied. Falafel but mostly shawarma and steaks and burgers and any kind of meat that was available to me, I ate, because there was amazing kosher food there. I'm sorry for those vegetarians and vegans that I'm offending, but it was incredible, and I was satisfied, and I appreciated it, really, every second, every moment. And somehow, I lost 5 pounds. Because when you average 21,000 steps a day, you can eat whatever you want, it turns out.
You can lose weight.
And it was really, really amazing. But it's not just that when you come to the land, you're supposed to say this prayer. It's really you're supposed to say thank you. You're supposed to express gratitude. So I want to take a moment before I describe a little bit of my sabbatical to express gratitude and thank you to you, the members of Temple Beth Abraham, and a few individuals I'm going to thank, and I'm sure I'll forget people, but I just really want to express my incredible gratitude for allowing myself and Karen to have these 5 months of sabbatical, 4 of which were spent in Israel, 1 month in Europe, just traipsing around. It's not an easy thing for a solo pulpit of nearly 500 families, right? I was constantly asked, well, who's taking care of things while you're gone? And the answer is that we have a really deep bench. We've got a lot of people who can do a lot of wonderful things here, and that enables me to be able to leave for this kind of time period. And there were a few funerals. We didn't have anybody for that. We had some, the other local rabbis were there for emergencies, and they stepped up. I want to thank especially the leadership of the congregation, President David Goodwin, the board of directors, the executive committee, for just allowing it to happen. I want to thank the staff of Temple Beth Abraham, especially Susan Simon, for all the extra work that they did. I want to thank all the lay people, especially Paul Sandberg, Jacqueline Polchik, and Marshall Langfeld for Friday night. For Saturday, Marshall and Jacqueline again, and Ann Levine, and Joan Korn, and John Jacobs, and dozens of service leaders, and all kinds of kids, teens that led week in and week out. I want to thank the streaming crew, the film crew, Josh Mailman, and Eli, and Jerry, and anyone else I might have forgotten, and I apologize. It doesn't mean I appreciate you any less. I really am grateful that we were able to do this. So now I want to talk just a little bit about my time in Israel, the spirituality of it, the normality of it, and the abnormality of it. So there's a certain spiritual expectation when you step in the land of Israel, that you're going to be somehow spiritually elevated, you're going to be connected to God, you're going to be connected to the Jewish people, and that was certainly true for me almost every day. Walking in the footsteps of my ancestors on those ancient stones and visiting those places, living to the rhythm of Judaism, Shabbat, the holidays that occur, everyone kind of on the same page. You do feel it. And it really was incredible. A couple of stories related to that. So we get there the first day, pouring rain, by the way. Absolute, pouring rain. I had to bring out the poncho that I brought for the England portion of the trip, and just in case, I still had with me. And we had tons of shopping to do to get the apartment set up, and we had there were places, certain favorite foods that we wanted to do our first day, and then we're getting toward the end of the day, and it's raining. I'm exhausted, but I haven't been to the old city yet. I haven't been to the Western Wall yet. I always like to go there on my first day, but should I go? I'm so tired, and it's raining. And I go anyway because I have to, and then perhaps Hashem is carrying me, the extra motivation as I go to the wall. And I run into my friend Minister Dumasani Washington of IBSI, the Institute for Black Solidarity with Israel. And I see him at the wall, and this is one time the wall's not crowded at all, right? Because it's pouring rain. What idiots are, running around, slipping on the stones with the rain. And that moment reminded me just how, of a lot of things, of course, the connections that you make, that you can run into anybody anytime in Israel, but for the rabbi and the minister to be there together at the wall on the first day, I almost didn't go. It turns out I went at the exact right time. And
did you walk there?
Of course. Yeah. It's hard to get. It's hard to get there. I almost never. I did not take a single bus in Jerusalem. I took the light rail a couple times because besides wanting to stay in shape and I like to walk, it takes longer to wait for the bus and for the bus to get through traffic than to walk, at least at my pace, through Jerusalem. So I really never took the bus. So that was one piece of spirituality. The other is kind of what I did there. What does a rabbi do on sabbatical? Most of the time, sabbaticals are associated with a project. You have to do something. And the congregation and leadership said to me, really do whatever you want. You've worked very hard for the last 12 years, and particularly the last couple of years with COVID and Raina's illness and other things. And do whatever you want. So what I did was what's called Torah Lishma. It's a Jewish value, Torah learning for its own sake. And I made one plan before I left, which was I was going to do the Hartman Institute, which is a more academic program for rabbis. I mean, there's a lot of text learning. It's more on the academic and sort of, liberal learning. And I knew I was going to do that, but that wasn't until July. So what was I going to do for the first few months? I thought I'd probably do Ulpan, but I hate Ulpan. I'm terrible at modern Hebrew, and I did find one and did a little bit of that, but that's not really what I wanted to do. I don't get as much out of it as I should. I know, I should work harder at it, but listen, I'm a certain age and I know what I can do and what I can't do. So I get there, and Rabbi Dardick says, why don't you come to my yeshiva? Rabbi Dardick, Judah Dardick, was the rabbi of Beth Jacob, the modern Orthodox synagogue, for, 12, 13 years, from 2001 to whatever, mid-teens. We started within a few weeks of each other at the same time here, serving our congregations in Oakland. Anyone who knows him knows he's not only an incredible human being, but really one of the most gifted teachers you could ever do. And so, well, what does that look like? He goes, you can just come and take whatever class you want, anytime you want. And so, 3 or 4 days a week, I took his Talmud shiur, his Talmud lesson, on the Tractate of Makot, which has to do with lashes. But that sounds horrible, that's not that important to the content or the story. It's just the learning of the Talmud. And I took a class on Maimonides, and I took a class on Chumash, and then a few other special classes here and there. What I didn't tell you, what does that mean to do an Orthodox yeshiva in the Old City? This is a particular one that's just for 19-year-olds, and it's their gap year. These are primarily American modern Orthodox Jews, quite learned themselves, the year before college, and so it was me and a bunch of 19-year-olds learning, and most of these 19-year-olds know more than I do, certainly about their Talmud skills, their Gemara skills are fresher than mine, and they have 19-year-old brains, which work faster. And it was part fraternity house, and part yeshiva, and very serious Talmud learning. But it was a wonderful experience, and it was a spiritual, elevated experience. So those were the two learning things I did. And the final moment or element of spirituality, although I must confess this was also some work, was the congregational trip to Israel. Loved it. But what was spiritual was seeing Israel through their eyes, and in most cases, their first time experiencing Israel eyes. So these were probably the most elevated spiritual. They weren't the only ones, but these are the three that stick out at this moment. So that's the spirituality. What about the normality? Anyone who ever visits Israel notices immediately, oh wait, it's also just like a really normal country where people, go grocery shopping and do laundry and go out to dinner and coffee, and it's very normal. They're not actually thinking about terrorism every single day of their lives. They're not trying to solve the entire Middle East crisis all day long. It's a very, very normal country. It's not just holy, it's fun, right? And it's also problematic, right? But this is the side that I especially wanted to show the congregation, and I think they got that. It was extremely crowded. People are out at all hours, all night, drinking coffee and tea, as well as beer and whiskey, whatever they're doing. I mean, it's alive right now in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. People are just really enjoying themselves, And if you look at the happiness indexes actually across the world, you start Googling that, you'll see that Israel is top 10 all the time, despite their many challenges. They're number 6. Thank you, Rabbi Gould. So you get Scandinavia, and then pretty much Israel. Now, there's a poem which some of you probably know by Yehuda Amichai, which expresses this. I'm going to read it to you. Visits of condolence is all we get from them. They squat at the Holocaust Memorial, they put on grave faces at the Wailing Wall, and they laugh behind heavy curtains in their hotels. They have their pictures taken together with our famous dead at Rachel's tomb and Herzl's tomb and on Ammunition Hill. They weep over our sweet boys and lust after our tough girls, and hang up their underwear to dry quickly in cool blue bathrooms. Once I sat on the steps by a gate at Migdal David, David's tower, and I placed my 2 heavy baskets at my side. And a group of tourists was standing around their guide, and I became their target marker. You see that man with their baskets? Just to the right of his head, there's an arch. It's from the Roman period. Just right of his head. But wait, now he's moving, he's moving. And I said to myself, redemption will only come when their guide tells them, you see that arch from the Roman period? That's not important. But next to it, left and down a little bit, sits a man who's just brought fruit and vegetables for his family. So Yehuda Amichai, the poet, his vision was that redemption comes when Israel has reached normality. But I think they're there at that point. It's incredibly normal, but redemption is still far ahead, however you want to find redemption. Still, very normal place, very happy place, very fun place, and I plan to return there again and again and again, as I do. Now, what about the abnormality? What's been in the news since I've been gone? And some of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the terrorism, but mostly it's been about Israel's internal conflicts. And in particular, this idea of judicial reform. And I'm not going to explain the whole thing to you. It would take a while, and if you want to learn more about it, we're having a couple speakers on it a week from Wednesday night, right here in the sanctuary. So please come to that. But I'll explain a little bit about it in a second. But if I didn't pay attention to the news, and we didn't have the apartment exactly where we had the apartment, you almost could pretend it wasn't happening. All right? Because it's not every moment of every day, except that we lived in a neighborhood of Rehavia. Just above, the street above us, was the house of the president, which is not the same thing as the prime minister, but the president of Israel, Herzog, where a lot of the protests were taking place. We lived down the street from the prime minister, Netanyahu's apartment, not his version of the White House, that's under renovation. So this was his normal apartment. Protests were not so much on our street because they don't want them there because of the physical danger, but it was certainly blocked off all the time, and we usually had to ask permission from the soldiers to our police officers if we could get through. We live here. We live on Rav Chaim, Berlin. Can you go? And usually the answer is yes, not always. Protests in Jerusalem were just about every Thursday night and Saturday night, and lots of other times as well. And there were, several thousand, 10, 20,000 in the streets of Jerusalem, sometimes more. And there were a couple 100,000 often at the protests in Tel Aviv. And there were smaller groups throughout the country. So what are they protesting about exactly? Let me just very briefly, and I'm not giving you the full picture at all, but basically what we would consider the right wing wants judicial reform. They believe that the courts have too much power. They can overrule the Knesset, the parliament, too easily, in their view. And they're elitist and they're unelected and they appoint themselves. These are some of the problems and why they believe there will be why they're pushing for judicial reform. So what does judicial reform essentially mean, though? It means that the Knesset can overrule the judiciary. The parliament can overrule the judiciary. Now, the problem is, this is complicated by the fact that that's the only check and balance that Israel really has. They don't have two houses, they have one. The leader, they don't have an executive branch. The prime minister is the same as the parliament, right? It's just the leader of the parliament. So a simple majority can do whatever they want if the judicial reform goes as the reformers hope, or I would say some of the reformers hope. So hopefully that's at least a little bit clear. Okay, left wing wants things made the same, stay the same, wants the courts to be able to overrule the parliament when necessary. Right wing wants the judicial system reformed, and that the Knesset has total power to pass any laws they want by a simple majority. It's also coupled by the fact there's no constitution, and that the prime minister himself has been indicted for corruption. So these things, are all part of the soup. Now, my sympathies are and I imagine most of you, although when I say that for sure, are certainly mostly with the protesters. But as with most things in Israel and in life, it's never quite as simple as you think it is. And who do I know? I know mostly center-left Zionists. I read the Times of Israel, which is a center-left publication. And the other group of people I know are right-wing religious Zionists, who I find, somewhat crazy often. But I know a lot of them, but when they present their arguments to me, it's hard not to dismiss them because their framework is so radically different from mine. But that's who I know. But who don't I know very many of? Kind of your average center-right Israeli who actually supports judicial reform, who is more likely than not Mizrahi, a Middle Eastern origin Jew rather than an Ashkenazic Jew, who feels that the judiciary is an elitist system, that their voice has been not heard since the beginning, and that those aren't the people that I know so much. I mean, they're probably they're the people behind the counter of my McCullough or whatever, but it's also not just, it's also lots of the upper middle class too. I met a bunch of Israelis like this on our cruise, actually, before we got to Israel. And every so often, I would check in with them for their views. And I didn't agree with them, but I had to say, can you please tell me what you're thinking? Because I wanted to know. And I think on the cruise, I tried to argue with them a little, but not much. But not much. It's not my place, I don't live there. And also, I want to learn. I want to know what they're actually thinking. So there's a lot of people like that, and that's why it's not that's why it's not as simple as it seems. In general, I think the situation is both not as bad as you're reading. The optimist in me, my mom's laughing, there is no optimist in me, but really, and those who I've heard who are slightly more optimistic about this, I think that we really only go so far and no further. And this is people like Donnie Hartman of the Hartman Institute. The protests are working to a great extent. Perhaps that is the check and balance. So, we're glad to see that. The protests have been, 99.9% incredibly peaceful and not problematic. But also, it could be worse than I think too, right? Because the long term, it opens up the possibility for dictatorial government, and lots of dictatorships have come to fruition through democratic means. So, a couple other things just I want to say real briefly that are interesting. Both sides own the flag there. In America, that's not how it works, really. If you see a bunch of people, a group walking around with American flags, you're going to make certain assumptions of them. They're probably going to be right. In Israel, you see a whole group of people heading to a protest. You don't know whether they're a right-wing group or a left-wing group based on necessarily how they're dressed or the flags they're carrying. They're all carrying the Israeli flag. They're all singing Hatikva at the end of their particular protest.
Sharing the flags with each other.
They sometimes share the flags, pass them back and forth. There's these incredible stories like, sometimes the counter-protest will be in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, and we're coming to the train station, in Tel Aviv, and the pro-reformers are leaving, and the anti-reformers are coming in, or the outside, if you remember, and they're literally going up different escalators, and they're waving to each other. It's just the most bizarre thing. But they haven't given up on each other quite yet either, and that's what's interesting. But long term, that's a real concern, right? Disunity and the country splitting apart and civil war. All those things are legitimate concerns. And if you look at the history of most countries in the world at 75 years, it's not so good. And just look at the United States, right? The Civil War was at 90 years, right? So we're approaching that time. There's also a prayer service at the Western Wall for both sides, for unity. So really interesting things are happening. But that's the abnormality of Israel at this moment. So we've got spirituality, we've got the normality, and we've got the abnormality. And I want to conclude with one final story, which mostly gets back to spirituality. And forgive me if you've already read it in the blog, forgive me in advance if you probably hear the high holidays in some way, shape, or form. Not that I've written my high holiday sermons yet, though, or anything. For those who know me, you will understand why that's a little bit funny. Okay. They were written in June. Okay, anyway, but they changed. So the very last day, the day where we should have been relaxing and packing, I decided to say yes to a request from one of my friends, someone I grew up with on the peninsula, whose son was doing a bar mitzvah and wanted an egalitarian bar mitzvah at the Robinson's Arch portion of the Western Wall. And so I said, yes, I'll do it. But the thing is, it was a Sunday, and Torah reading days are Mondays and Thursdays. So that's a whole other sermon about how unhelpful everyone was in the process and what it took for me to get this whole thing set up on a Sunday. I'm literally looking at a locked cabinet where the Torah and the prayer books are, and I couldn't access them. Anyway, so I had to get a Torah from far away. And so I went, one of the conservative congregations called Mayanot loaned us a Torah. They're about a 45-minute walk from the Western Wall. And 45 minutes at my pace, okay? So it's a long, so you should take a taxi, right? If you got the Torah. I also had to get the prayer books from our tour company on a different day. Anyway, so I should have taken a taxi, but I'm very early, and do I really want to put the Torah in a taxi? And plus I'm just kind of a martyr, and the 21,000 steps a day, and I can do this. And I picked up the Torah, and it's pretty light. So I pick up the Torah, and I put a talit around it. But I don't want to walk 45 minutes through God knows which neighborhoods just holding the straight Torah, so I disguise it. I put the 2 giant plastic garbage bags in it, and it's like 90 degrees, okay? And I'm hugging 2 black plastic garbage bags as I'm walking with the Torah for 45 minutes to the wall. But it's the Torah, and Hashem will provide. But that's not the only thing that was providing, because what happened is it's hardly a disguise, right? People know what I'm holding, and as I'm on my walk, every kind of person from every kind of walk in life comes up and kisses the Torah, kisses the black plastic garbage bag, and secular Israelis, and then when I returned it, I know I put in the cart for us. When I returned it, it's in a room where a bunch of senior citizens are doing exercise class, and they all come and they kiss the Torah. And when I started setting it up by Robinson's Arch, there's a group of like 6-year-old yeshiva kids looking at the egalitarian section, but there's no prayer there, and they're coming up and they're kissing the Torah. It's like the Torah had a camera on it, right? And it's walking itself, and that's what it felt like. And then, of course, I get to the old city, though, before the yeshiva people, and I have to go to the bathroom. So, what do you do with it? You can't bring a Torah into the bathroom. Nobody's there yet. I can't place it on the, and leave it there. And the bathroom's not near the Robinson's Arch. So what do? I walk into my favorite halva at halva shop, and they have other things there, too. The one I told the congregation to all visit, there's a new one in the old city where you don't have to buy these like gigantic chunks. And I walk in and I'm like, I'm dripping in sweat from the black plastic bag, right? And I said, can you guys do me the biggest favor? He goes, do you want us to hold the Sefer Torah? So the Halva guys, while they were serving, and helping customers, are holding the Sefer Torah in the black plastic bag while I go to the bathroom. Picked it back up, got it, walked Province's Arch, eventually got there, bar mitzvah goes off without a hitch. And not only was that a spiritual moment, it was a reminder that despite the abnormality of the disunity, everyone still wants to kiss the Torah. Everyone still understands the importance of the Jewish people and what has sustained us for these thousands of years. Shabbat Shalom. Please rise for Musaf, page 239. Ikra v'ikra shmei Rabbah, V'yibrach Yirtei v'mlik malchutei, V'chayim kol yom Ufchayim kol beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Ba'agala, U'bizman kari v'meru, Yehei shmei Rabbah Norah, Le'olam lo le'omaya, Yiparach v'shtabach, Yiparim Rabbi Naseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shmei Kudsha, Le'lam Yiko B'chata V'shirata, V'shbechata V'nechem Ata, Yamirat B'yoma, V'yimeru, Amen. Adonai, Sifratita, Ufi, Agite Ilateha, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Eloheinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor HaMorah, El Elyon, Gonel Chasadim Tovim, Yekonei HaKol, V'zocher Hasdei HaMot, Umevi Koel Libnei Bneihem, L'man Shelo Yahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, U'Elokei Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'Manai, V'chayim Kimat Arach Le'Hoshia, U'Rivatal, V'Chakel Chaim B'Chesed, V'chayim Eitim B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Melchim V'Ofech Holy, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato L'Shenei Afar, Micha Mocha Bal Yifuro, Tumido Melech, Melech Me'id U'Mechayem, U'Masiach Yeshua, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayem, Amen. Na'aritzcha v'na'ishacha, Kesosiach Sarfei Kodesh, Amarti Shimcha B'Kodesh, Kakatu Al Yad V'yecha, V'karazeh Ozev Yomar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzavon, Elohim Kevodo, Kevodo Malei Olam, V'shartash Olim Zelazeh, Ayim Kevodo, Yimatam Baruch Yomeinu, Baruch Yonai Minkomo, Minkomo Hu Yifei Berachamim, V'yachonam V'yachim Shemo, Erev V'Kol Yom
Ani Adonai Elohim.
Kochecha katu le'or.
Yimloch Adonai Olam Adonai Zion. Ador Hallelujah.
לנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדי, עלינו כביר אלוהים ושלום בהן, נוגע לגרש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. Continue on our own, pages 247 through 258. Also a good time for your own private prayer and meditation. Shalom, page 259. Good. Avi Krashne Rabban. Amen. Mani Racher Tevim Lechmachtet B'chai Chani B'machtet B'chai Israel. Agalaviz Man Karivim Meru. Amen. Yesh Me'Rabban B'Vorah. Le'olam Olam Ne'omaya Yichorah. Ach Yishtabach, Barbim Amin HaSedek, Le'Avdeledik Vlashmei Kutsha. Re'echu. Ami Kova Fetah V'Shivat HaCh. Nechamat Adamiram B'Yamavim Meru. Amen. Odi Bishmaya Vimeru. Amen. Yishlam Rab Min Shemayach V'Naver Koisrael Vimeru. Amen. Osei Shalom B'Mamah Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel Vimeru. Amen. We need some help up here. Come on up. How about yeah, Nolan. Yeah. Okay. And there were two others. Didn't I see Arthur here? Arthur's here. Yeah, Arthur, Rebecca Especially today of Abe Backman, David Berkovich, Ellen Berkovich, Gertrude Bleiberg, Irving Mayer Burt, David Coopersmith, Marshall Denenberg, Pearl Epperson, Carl Freeman, Lev Gelfond, Arthur Glazer, Daniel Goldfein, Lena Goldman, Seymour Goldstone, Johnny Holton, David Herman Klein, Dorothy Levine, Leah Levine, Edward C. Miller, Morris Pulse, Hannah Ethel Roth, Harry Rubin, Salt Seltzer, Catherine Seif, Harry Tubin, Kay Warren, and we are in the Shloshim 30-day mourning period for Faye Ransaw, Martin B. Cohen, and Donald Schaefer. The memories of all the mourners, we ask all those who are mourning or observing workside, as well as anyone else who wishes to rise for the mourner's Kaddish. This time it's on page 267. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shnei rabbah. Amen. V'yalmad yivrat hirutei, v'yamlich mochutei, v'chayechon v'yamechon, v'yechol Beit Yisrael, v'agalav yizman kari v'yimru. Amen. V'yishnei rabbah v'varach v'olam v'yamaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shnei kudsha. V'yechul. Le'elam yinkol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, Amiran Bialma Bibru. Amen. Yehi Shlam Rabbamin Shemai. V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Bibru. Amen. Osei Shalom Bibramah. Uyasei Shalom. Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Bibru. Amen. Nikonam Livracha. In the memory of the people you've come to say, God is so be blessed. You always. Let us say. Amen. Amen. We call upon President of the Congregation David Goodwin for announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Thank yous. First of all, thank you to Karen Lai and to Becky Brown for ushering, and to Sarah Corrin and the Rabbi for leading services, and our all-star Torah readers, Garrett Langfeld, Lynn Langfeld, Mark Fickus, Marshall Langfeld, Elizabeth Sims, and to Garrett for doing the Haftarah. And also, yes, thank you. You know, I kept saying, like, the problem with doing this in Shabbat is I can't take notes. Thank you. let's see, I know now I'm forgetting everything, but the Kiddush lunch after the service is sponsored by the Bourbon Pulse Kiddush Fund and is prepared by Henny Head Zoberberg. In terms of announcements, the schools begin this week, which is crazy, but apparently it has to do with the Oakland teachers wanting to get this everything done before the winter holidays.
That is not because of the teachers. Sorry.
The union, according to
Not
the.
because of the
Okay,
union.
good.
I can
Glad to
explain
hear
later.
it.
It is not a teachers union.
All right, thank you. So the Oakland side blog is wrong, but our schools do begin this week. And then this Friday night is the family Kabbalah service with our pizza dinner. And I think you have until maybe tomorrow to sign up. Shabbat Shalom.
Maybe they'll be here next week, but just in case they're not, I want to wish Shana Silverswag and Tamar Brynas safe journeys to college. They're headed to Grinnell for Tamar and Columbia JTS joint program for Shana. But maybe next week, Shana and Tamar and Galvin and a few others will lead the Torah service. I'm not sure. They don't know that I'm asking them to yet. They do now.
Columbia JTS, did she go to rabbinical school?
No. Okay. But yes, so anyway, that's what we got. So good to see you. And good to see everyone else. Great to be here. And looking forward to a nice, lovely Kiddush lunch. Yeah, the Kiddush lunches in Israel are not like what we have.
Comparison.
No comparison. That's true. All right, we're going to rise for our tikva for the closing song, page 65.
Yerushalayim.